Today is a special day for me. Today is my 4th year of not playing video games. And I'm going to talk about how I used video games incorrectly. I'm also going to talk about some common myths around alcohol, video games, pornography, all sorts of stuff, which I don't use adult websites or video games at all. And I drink at times. And maybe I smoke marijuana a couple times a year, etc. But we got to be careful with all this stuff. But why I decided to get rid of video games, why I think they were very bad for me and why they're not for many people, but they can be a slippery slope for most, and everything else in between. So I'm very excited to do this video. I've had this written down on my scheduler for a week, thinking about it every day, and that my video game anniversary date is May 1st. So May 1st is when I put my video games away, 2020, and I really took my recovery seriously 4 years ago. If you're struggling with OCD, if you need help, please reach out. The one-to-ones, we really go through fears and break them down. You can reach us at phil@ocdrecovery.com. Again, that is phil@ocdrecovery.com. The books are on the reading list at ocdrecovery.com. And then we have webinars every Tuesday at 8:30 p.m. UK time. The last webinar we had on the breaking down worst case scenarios was amazing. 109 people. Thank you so much for everyone that came out. Rob and I have been doing, well, we did on this one, a live breakdown. We did a mock one-to-one for 15 minutes. He pretended he had HIV and AIDS fears, primarily HIV. And I was the person who's coaching him to show people how we do it. So are video games inherently bad for you? No. Is marijuana inherently bad for you? No. Is alcohol inherently bad for you? No. Is opioids inherently bad for you? No. Because my dad had stage 4 cancer and they used opioids with him. See, the problem with the world is that when you have a platform and you've had an addiction and you have recovered from that addiction, unless you are extremely self-aware, you will preach your bias, as humans do. I do this. We all do this in some way or another because we have our worldview, and it's hard to be open-minded about everything. It takes a lot of power to do that, the thought power in breaking down beliefs. So people will have struggled with alcohol, and you'll see these really famous podcasters and YouTubers go, alcohol, your friends that you drink with, get away from them, wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning and go out. No, going out in college, you're getting pissed fucking hammered is awesome. It's awesome, and you know it. And we have memories, and we make mistakes, and we learn from those things. Trust me, I promise you, there's no one on their deathbed. I haven't met this person yet. 90 years old, and they're like, I'm so happy I lived like the best straight edge ever. I had no fun, no risk, this and that. And then what people do is they go, well, alcohol isn't fun. Yes, it is. It's very fun if you can control it and balance it. So these rigid beliefs, and then same thing with caffeine. We say, oh, caffeine's not needed, it's a drug. It's just nonsense. Marijuana is the same way. But I wanted to open up with that because it's very easy, and some things are weighted differently. Remember, weighted decision-making, one of Ray Dalio's biggest principles. You're not going to weigh alcohol as the same way you do as injecting meth. So with meth, you might say, yeah, probably can't balance it at all. A lot of people can balance heroin. See where my mind's going. A lot of people can balance alcohol, but a good amount of people can't. So why did I cut video games? Now, I played video games at a very compulsive level. It was not uncommon for me to play for 24 hours straight. 16 hours a day was a light day for me. I'm not joking. My wife can attest. I mean, it almost destroyed my marriage. And I wasn't working, and it was really bad. I actually messaged my crew of guys I've been playing with since 2010. I've never met any of them in person. They're all great. There's 3 of them, Zach, Dakota, and Mikey. And I haven't played with Mikey in years, but Zach and Dakota were really the main 2 I played with from like 2010 to 2020. And never met them in person. And I would consider them great friends of mine. That's how the video game world goes. But, I told them at the end, guys, I got to stop playing video games. It's really, really hindering my life. And I made a personal decision to stop playing because I was using it in a very compulsive way. Most people are not like that. Most people can come home, play some video games. Yeah, they might have a problem here and there. And maybe they have a little bit of low frustration tolerance, but that's what life is about, and for many people in many cases, and then they go about their way, right? We got to be careful today. We have the whole mindset and world of like, wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning and read 100 pages every day and do this and do that and success and notoriety and it's like no fun. It's like, no, video games is good for downtime. Having a beer when you're smoking a cigar and reading a book is great. This idea that we have to be like the straight, narrow path, that is the problem for everyone. there are people that do need to walk that path. I'll give you an example. My best friend, who I talk about a lot in my videos, was addicted to Oxycontin quite badly, severe alcoholic. He walks a pretty straight and narrow, right? He's been sober for, I think this year was 12 years. I was just with him in Miami. Great guy, 2 kids, great family, great job, just awesome. And we have a lot of fun. But we also had a lot of fun when we were younger getting smashed. Now for him, he went the wrong way, and I didn't. I didn't struggle with any of that. I don't regret any of my decisions. I literally have a memory of me going up to Quinnipiac, which is a college in Rhode Island, and we literally had the shot table, those stupid Jell-O tube shots, was like stacked this high. It was bad. Me, him, and my buddy Ryan. I don't even know, but it's like, things happen. I'm not saying it's healthy for you, and I'm not saying it's a good thing. But this idea that like video games and alcohol, you can't have fun with those things, you got to be really careful who you're listening to. Because listen to the people you are talking to. They're not usually smiling. They're not laughing. They don't really make a lot of jokes. They seem too stuck up, and they have their own problems. And I don't want to be like that. I understand why they're like that, but that's not for me. And that's okay. They can sit there and be like, oh, it's fake fun when you have a beer with your friends. Sure. I don't even get in the discussion because they're coming at you with an attacking mode and they're not willing to change their opinion. So it's okay. So moral of the story, getting hammered can be fun, but a lot of people can't get hammered because it's a problem. Playing video games with your friends at 2:30 in the morning when you've drank 3 Monsters is a blast. I'm not saying it's a great life structure. I'm not saying, but there's memories I have from this stuff that were amazing. I mean, anyone who's a video game there will know game battles or CMGs, but whether you're betting money or not, now we have another problem. But let's say you're playing game battles, Call of Duty, Search and Destroy, whatever the game is, and you're just like, you know how it is, you're on the sea. I was a search player, primarily. I was not a run and go type of guy. I was much more strategic. I sucked to cap the flag. Search was always something I was extremely good at. Played Search for 14 years. Played a lot of competitive games, a lot of singles and doubles tournaments and quad tournaments. Just such a nerd. But it was so much fun. But it was very bad for my life. But I don't regret any of those things. I also don't regret any of the bad things that happened to me. Like, I don't regret my DUI. Maybe that's not true. I regret that it happened, but I learned a lot from my DUI because I'm like, yeah, look, I never struggled with alcoholism, thankfully. Neither my mom or my dad were drinkers, but I had a binging problem. Binging is not the same as alcoholism. Alcoholism is a dependency. And you go, there's no difference. It's like, no, there is. There are people who can learn to not binge and balance alcohol and be fine. I've seen this. But there's people who binge and then turn into severe alcoholics, genetically more than likely in environment and just shit luck and timing, and then they can never drink again. It's not as simple as society wants set in black and white rules. Boop, 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 boop. And I always use the example of court of law. Well, this happened in that murder case. No, it's called due process. So it's like, if you have 10 murder cases, they're all different, every single one, and their own unique, special way. So it's important to look at it like that. So video games was really destroying my relationship. My wife wanted to throw me off the Grand Canyon, or into the Grand Canyon. Off the Grand Canyon or into? Off of it into the Grand Canyon. Right? That's how it works. Anyway, so and it just was bad. And then I was smoking so many Juul pods when the mango Juul pods were out. Sad. And just eating like maniac. I mean, I was like, I was a big boy. I was a chunky monkey. But, I still had fun and had a lot of good memories. I'm just not saying it's the best way to live your life. So, am I going to go back to video games? No. Do I pick video games every once in a while? No, I don't play at all. Could I do it? Maybe. But I'd have to play like N64 with like a cousin or like if I had kids or something at a birthday party. But I ain't picking up COD. I'm not picking up Call of Duty because I know myself. You got to know your own triggers. You got to be able to think for yourself. And you got to take risks that you might be making the wrong decision. So as someone I'm working with right now, and when I mean someone, there's many of them, and individuals are like, hey, I'm not drinking alcohol right now. I was an alcoholic, but I binged a little bit. I want to reintroduce the year. And video games are the same way. And I say, okay, 2 things. Number 1, you have to be aware that it could go bad. Reality could go bad. Number 2, you have to accept it. It might be harder than you think to balance it when you bring it back. So taking that awareness and having a good mindset when you go into those things is very beneficial for the long-term navigating. Is this good for me? Is it bad for me? Forget what anyone else is doing. You know, because it used to be like, no, well, like Sally, Jim, and Tommy, they can all play video games until 2 in the morning. Yeah, but you can't because you do that every single day, and it's all you think about all day long, Nick. Just gaming, competitiveness, betting money, all sorts of stuff. Smoking, eating. It's like this thing. Could I balance it? I might be able to. I just don't want to take the risk. That's a personal decision. It's not what you should do. You have to think about this yourself. But you got to be careful. Again, there's so many channels out there that are like video games are bad for you, alcohol's bad for you, sugar's bad for you. When you see someone being black and white, if it's not meth, fentanyl, crystal, crack, or any of those things, or the big ones, be aware, okay? So, because again, everything's not in a vacuum. Well, you don't want to see this video. You know what? Most people can balance meth. No, they can't, because we see the anecdotes and we know that. But there are people who can balance video games. So it's not as simple. We want a black and white response. It takes a lot of thought to break this down, and it really has to come from what you have to struggle with. So me cutting video games was the best thing I ever did. It helped me get to me where I am today, which is recover from OCD, which is absolutely amazing and hard to think of how nerdy I actually was. I mean, screaming at people at 4:30 in the morning or trying not to because my wife was sleeping. I'm like, anyone that plays video games knows smacking your controller. I've literally shattered controllers, which then fueled my anger problems. So I didn't even talk about that part. So it was a big thing. If you're struggling with anything, please reach out. Phil@OCDrecovery.com. Hope to hear from you soon. Again, thank you for watching our videos, for always. Thank you for listening to us and our beliefs and helping you. And we hope we are helpful because this is something I'm extremely passionate about. And I hope to hear from you soon. Have a good one, everyone.